All right, you survived week one. Congratulations. See, it wasn't that hard. It will get a little tougher, but not that much tougher. Before we get into week two, I had to go over some things that are a little boring, but very important. So just bear with me for a few minutes because these are things that you're probably going to want to know. First thing is, this is my fault. I didn't put this in the syllabus, and I should have, so I've included it now. If you come over here and we go to syllabus, I've added this, response time. So basically, if you send me a message using my messages, which we talked about last week is the way that you should be communicating with me if you have any questions, and that I'll be communicating with you. So if you send me a message, I will respond to you within 48 hours, Sunday through Thursday. So if you send me a message Sunday through Thursday, within 2 days, I will give you a response back. If you send me a message on Friday or Saturday, it'll be 72 hours, or it could be 72 hours, so it could be 3 days. In all honesty, it'll probably be a lot less than all this. I usually get back within 24 hours. I'll get you a response back. However, I do leave that little bit of a window because things come up for me too, and I might not be able to respond instantly. So I like to put this out there because I want you to be able to manage your time. In other words, think about it. Our assignments are due Sunday night. So if you don't look at anything until Saturday and then all of a sudden you have a question, which I do want you to contact me with questions. I know it can be confusing online, so I'd rather you ask me questions. But what I don't want is a question comes Saturday midday, your assignment was due Sunday night, I didn't get back to you, and you say, well, I didn't know what to do because you never got back to me. Well, that's why you should be then at least looking at the material earlier in the week so you can ask me the questions early. So again, it's like a time management thing for you. I just want you to know realistic expectations. I will get back to you. But it could be 48 hours during the week and 72 hours on the weekend. So just have that in mind. When you're managing what you're going to be looking at and when you're going to be looking at the material, and when you're going to actually start doing the work. Something else here: all submitted work will be graded within 1 week from the assignment's due date. So it's not when you turned it in; it's when the due date was. The due date is always Sunday night. So I'll get you your grade and feedback within a week from then. Again, it's usually a lot earlier. It's usually a few days. But I expect when you start doing the writing assignments that we'll be doing, those could take me up to a week. But everything will come from a week when it was due. So you're not going to be waiting around for grades for 3 weeks and the course is almost done. And I give a lot of feedback. That's what also takes me some time. I give really good feedback. But it does take sometimes up to a week for that. All right, something else I just want to make sure, and we talked about it last week, I think, but I want to just reiterate it because it's so important. Coming over here to tools, these are some important tools for you. Course messages, like we talked about, you're going to want to check that. You can also get to it from over here on my messages, but look at your inbox because sometimes I might send you a message. Even if you didn't respond, say if you didn't start by sending me a message, I might message you just out of the blue about something. So make sure you're checking your inbox, and of course, if you want to respond, if you want to contact me, this is where you're going. You're going to create a message. Also, this is really important, calendar. This calendar has everything that I assign. When I assign it, it shows up in your calendar here. So you see this already passed because it was due on the 28th, but here was your chapter 1 and 2 quiz and your basic news story. And you can click on it and you can go right to the assignment. It tells you when the due date is. So this is important for you to make sure you're keeping track of when things are due. We have some things, again, Sunday nights, but as we start doing the writing assignments, it might be due 2 or 3 weeks later from when I assigned it. So this helps you keep track of everything. And then the last thing in tools that most of you care about is the My Grades. You can also find it over here, My Grades. But going to My Grades here, it has everything that was assigned, what your points are out of it. And again, remember, if you look at the syllabus, it's based on a 1,000-point system, this class. So you can see how close you are, or how, if you're falling behind, you can tell what kind of work you might need to do to catch up. So this is a really good way just to kind of gauge your grades here. All right, thanks for bearing with me. I know that's boring. For some of you already know that stuff, but that's important housekeeping that we need to get through. Let's go to what we're actually doing this week. So I'm going to exit our student view. You guys get the inside peek now. We're in the instructor view right now. Let's take a look at our instructor view. Week 2. Here's the outline for this week. You're going to introduce yourself to your classmates, which we'll talk about in a second. This week we're reading chapters 4 and 5. You're going to take the quiz and the exercise for 4 and 5, just like you did in week 1. You're going to start looking for hard news stories in the area to cover. We're going to talk about that. Don't panic on me yet. We're going to talk about that in a second. and again, continuing to read stories in the Washington Post. So let's start with the introduce yourself. It's this one right here. Depending on your view here, you're either looking there or this. And what I wanted to do is just write a few paragraphs, just introducing yourself. Who are you? So you can see I've started this off. I didn't do that much. It's not that long. Just a few paragraphs, just talking a little bit about who you are and why you decided to take this class. I'm going to back out here for a second. Let me go back here. As you can see here, the instructions, please write a few paragraphs to introduce yourself to your classmates and me and let us know why you want to take this class. So not too much, I'm not expecting a word count. I'm not, this isn't graded. I just think it's good to see what your classmates, who they are. We don't have that many in this class. There's only 4. So just who your classmates are, learn a little bit about each other. Again, so you guys are realizing that you're not in a silo. We're all in this together. You can learn a little bit about me too. Feel free to comment on each other's discussion post if you want to make a connection. They are your classmates, so they might say something interesting. Feel free to respond in the discussion board there. Again, not graded. I just think it's good for us all to learn about each other. Chapters 4 and 5 with the quiz and the exercise. You got the idea from last week. Same concept, and that's what we're really covering this week. It's mostly interviewing, which you'll learn, and gathering sources, your sources that you're going to have. So you're going to learn about that this week, and I'm going to get back to that actually in a second. So this is the one that I want you guys to start to think about. And again, let me do my spiel here before you panic. Next week we're going to learn about how to do a hard news story, and that's going to be your first major assignment, your major writing assignment. You're going to be doing a hard news story. So without going into a whole lesson plan into what a hard news story is, it's basically something that's happening live. It could be, let's see, if you're going to your nephew's dance recital, right? Or even your a performance, your nephew's dance performance. It could be if you are, your town has a local meeting, a Board of Education meeting, something that a lot of you might think is boring, but these meetings are held in the town often, a few days a week. There's some kind of board meeting going on in the evening. Could be going and covering something like that. It could be going to, your niece's soccer game and covering the soccer game live. It could be going to a concert that's held in your town's green and covering that concert live. I'm just trying to, shoot out any ideas that are popping to the top of my head. It could be, some kind of a work event that's they're holding a party. A lot of things are going on right now in towns, like I'm thinking of July, so not fireworks, but some kind of an event that the town is holding. Grand opening of the pool opening in your town. Again, we're going to talk more about that. Hopefully, some of those ideas are just starting to get your wheels going. But eventually, what's going to happen is you're going to be covering one of those events. You're going to show up for an hour. You're going to interview a couple people, and you're going to write a story about it. So I want you to start thinking about an event that's coming. You're not starting this week, but start looking for next week. Start looking at some things that you could maybe cover for next week. I know everybody's schedule is crazy, and we're going to talk about if you do have some scheduling conflicts, what we can do. But just start looking. That's all I'm asking you at this point. Just start looking at what's available. Message me if you have questions. Do you think this would be a hard news story? And just start considering it, because next week we'll actually start talking about hard news stories. You'll learn a little bit more about it, and then we'll start to figure out what you're actually going to cover. If you're really having difficulties, I will work with you. We'll figure something out. I don't want you to panic. We'll figure something out. I always do. But I'd rather you start early right now, just kind of taking a look at different events going on around your area next week, and maybe that's something that you could possibly cover. So hopefully, if you have any questions early about that, message me, because I don't want to scare anybody off here. But again, I think it's better to start early. And part of the assignment really is also having to do the work and look and find events. So it is a little bit hard. It's not going to be always easy. First thing you search and you find a hard news a story to cover, something live to cover. But that's part of all this. Again, this isn't anything that's due right now, just in the back burner. Start looking for things that you might want to cover next week. And continue to read a few news stories each day from the Washington Post, which we've been talked about for week 1. We're continuing on to week 2, and soon in the next few weeks we're actually going to be using the stories that you're reading. So, don't fall too far behind with that. Just read a couple stories a day. Here is the homework again that we talked about, chapters 4 and 5. And the exercise has not showed up yet, but we'll also have the exercise, which is in here. That will be in there too. Okay, I think that covers everything for this week. Last thing I just want to let you know is at some point within the week, I will have a little short video, 5 minutes or less, just kind of giving overall critique of the exercises that you guys did, because I plan on getting these graded early next week. So the exercises that you did, of course, I'm giving you individual feedback and submitting your grades, and then I'm going to also just give kind of general feedback of what I noticed in the class. So I will do that sometime mid next week. Take a look for that video. If you don't get to it next week, it'll be there for the week after too. But just be aware that I will be releasing that too. All right, so I released this week a little early. So if you did watch this on Sunday, if you are watching this on Sunday, hope you have a great Memorial Day. And if you're watching it after the Memorial Day holiday, I hope you did have a great Memorial Day vacation. And I'm excited to keep going here in this class. Hopefully now the flow will start to come, and soon you'll get a little bit more creative, like I talked about. Like I was just saying, we're going to be doing hard news stories. You're going to get to go out and actually cover something. That's where the creative work starts to really happen. So hang in there. The first few weeks are a lot of information. It's tough to get into the flow, but soon you guys will get your hands dirty and actually be doing the work.